Yeah, I'm late because I got angry in a tweet and then had to reply and forgot that I was going live. Uh, let's all back this out.
There's lots on the weekend edition of the Countdown podcast about how John Eastman inadvertently reignited the entire Chuck Grassley Electoral College count controversy of January 6th. But I'd like you to listen instead to the Elon Musk segment because the tipping point is here. Musk is now interfering with American foreign policy. He is now aiding the enemies of this nation, and he's now following the instruction of Russian propagandists. The tipping point is Elon Musk has become a danger to the United States of America. Walter Isaacson's new book reports that in 2022, Musk ordered his engineers in secret to make sure that Starlink was not available to Ukraine, so that a Ukrainian submarine drone attack on the Russian naval fleet would fail.
Keith Olbermann. I know that I oftentimes use the Mark Twain expression, judge a man by the adjectives he habitually uses to describe others in conversation. I understand if there are people out there who therefore think that I might be a psychopath because I use that word relatively often, but only when dealing with psychopaths. Keith Olbermann is a psychopath. Oh, he's mentally unhinged, mentally deranged, whatever you want to call it. He's got a good radio voice, I'll give him that much. This just in, I am full of crap and spewing disinformation and misinformation, and I am a raging hypocrite with absolutely zero principles. My name is Keith Olbermann. Here, let's let him finish with this.
Fail it did, and Ukrainians died. Why did Musk do it? Because Musk...
What is the it to which you are referring, Keith Olbermann? Because I think you might have a flawed premise in here. I think you might have formed your wildly insane, your wildly dangerous opinion based on flawed premises because you are also wildly ill-informed to boot. To boot, eh? Let's see what else Keith Psychopath Olbermann has to say.
Musk was afraid the attack would be viewed as a, quote, mini Pearl Harbor and provoke a Russian nuclear response. And he did it also after Ian Miles Chong, who has worked for RT, the Russian propaganda network, suggested it to him on Twitter.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that Keith Olbermann, I forget who he worked for. We're going to have to find that out. He is faulting Ian Miles Chong for having worked for RT, a Russian propagandist network. Where did Keith Olbermann work again? MSNBC? Holy crap. It's not... I know the expression, it's not a hypocrisy, it's hierarchy. I don't say that. Because this is not about hierarchy anymore. This is about lawlessness. These people, it's not that they're hypocrites. It's that they are lawless individuals who would use and abuse any and all powers that they have to suppress and to tyrannize their ideological adversaries. This man is accusing someone else of having worked for a government propagandist network. I'm going to have to find out where Keith Olbermann worked before, but hold on.
The kindest interpretation is that Elon Musk is now under the influence of Russia. The kindest interpretation is that Elon Musk is now under the influence of Russia. And this nation must, if possible, deport him. All that and more in the weekend edition of the Countdown podcast, available now wherever you podcast and also available on YouTube.
Shiko. I'm channeling, what's his name from Happy Gilmore? Kevin Nealon. Psycho. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm actually channeling Happy Gilmore from Happy Gilmore. Psycho. He worked at ESPN and MSNBC. Oh, no, but he gets to complain that someone else worked for RT, state propaganda. But no, the most thing that we have to conclude from this, Elon Musk has been captured by Putin. He is now taking orders directly from Putin, and we should deport him. It's unbelievable. I was just fighting with someone on Twitter who doesn't seem to understand the distinction that people on the left now think they've got the right in a gotcha, where the right says you can't subject people to experimental jibby jabs. Also, you can't allow children to mutilate their bodies for gender dysphoric reasons. And the left thinks that this is somehow a gotcha. Oh, you want to tell a kid what they can't do with their bodies while telling adults that they don't have to be compelled, they can't be compelled to do things with their... They don't understand the differences. Keith Olbermann says deport Elon Musk, a law-abiding citizen who, as far as I understand, he's a naturalized citizen, hasn't broken any laws, although I don't know that you can even be... I mean, I don't know the law, but once you get your green card or permanent residence or whatever, if you're a naturalized American citizen, can you be deported if you break the law? I don't think so, but hold on. Deport him. Where is the video that I have of that psychopath? No, not this one. Hold on one second. It was a bit that he had from one of his segments where Keith Olbermann was talking about the inhumanity of Trump, that he wants to deport people. Angry. This is it. This is not it. Now we've got meta Viva. Hold on one second. Do we want to get it? I know that I had it. Oh, cripe almighty. Hold on. We need to see this because it's the full circle of the hypocrisy or the lawlessness. Keith Olbermann said this. Yesterday was when I believe that I saw it. And then you just have to know, where would the hypocrisy lie when someone like Keith Olbermann comes out and says, deport Elon Musk? Well, you know, the hypocrisy would lie in any position that he might have had prior to that, in which he criticized anybody who ever spoke of deporting Americans or deporting illegal immigrants. Here we go. This is it. Keith Olbermann, above and beyond being a raging, wildly ill-informed psychopath, which we're going to get to the ill-informed part in a second, is also just a lawless hypocrite. Where is it? Here we go. Here we go. Do you remember the exact moment you became the psychotic demon you railed against? Listen to this.
The Trump gang, already shaming us for all of history by rounding up good, honest, law-abiding Americans without criminal records and with families who they have started and raised here and forcibly sending them back to countries they barely know or do not know at all. Let's
just play that one more time, Keith, from whatever, 5, 6, 7 years ago. Donald Trump, the monster, for rounding up... Did he say...
The Trump gang, already shaming us for all of history by rounding up good, honest, law-abiding Americans without criminal records and with families who they have started and raised here and forcibly sending them back to countries they barely know or do not know at all.
Law-abiding Americans. There are some out there, I'm not saying I'm one of them, but the steelman argument is an illegal immigrant, by definition, is not law-abiding because they broke the law to get into a foreign country. There are some who would say that, but let's just even take all of this for granted. Keith Olbermann, you raging hypocrite.
The Trump gang, already shaming us for all of history by rounding up good, honest, law-abiding Americans without...
Rounding up good, law-abiding Americans.
Criminal records.
Without criminal records.
And with families who they have started and raised here.
With families who they've started and raised here.
And forcibly sending them back to countries they barely know or do not know at all.
Deport Elon Musk. You could make this hypocrisy up, but no one would believe that someone has the bald-faced audacity of being such a wild, raging hypocrite. Nobody. It's like nobody would say, could the same person have said both of those things? No, of course not, because they'd have to rely on people's aggregate stupidity, willful blindness, or partisan hatred to say, yeah, when Keith Olbermann was dumping on Trump for rounding up law-abiding Americans with families here and sending them back to countries that they hardly recognize, nobody would ever think that that same man 5 years later would say, deport Elon Musk. And by the way, why do I say that he's wildly ignorant and ill-informed? In his rambling, incoherent tirade of a response, for which I award him no points and may God have mercy on his soul, you notice how he implied that Elon Musk did something proactive to foil Ukraine's or Zelensky's attempt to defend against Russia. Elon clarified on Twitter, nothing proactive was done. All that Elon did was refused to do something proactive at the request of a warring nation, because apparently From what I understand, there was no Starlink satellite, whatever, over Crimea, the area where Elon was asked by Ukraine to implement that. So Elon was proactively requested to participate in war, to which he said, I'm not doing or not doing anything. That's it. And then as a result of that, whatever happened, happened. Elon did not come out and proactively do something. He was requested to proactively do something and said, I'm not doing something that might very well provoke, if not a World War III, at the very least, I am not participating in war proactively. I don't know that Keith Olbermann knows that. I don't think it makes a difference. He's unhinged, ill-informed, a propagandist of the highest order, which is why I suspect he sees propagandists in everyone else. And yes, everybody, I am fully aware of hashtag confession through protection. But when you have the insight, you're always asking yourself the question, even before other people ask it of you. Now, good morning, people. I was going to take today off because we've got a big day tomorrow for live streams. But tomorrow's 2 live streams, and there are back-to-back with a half-hour break in between, are going to be amazing. And so I was going to take today off, but then if I take today off and tomorrow during the day off, I don't know, people might miss me. I might miss people. So I had some stuff left on the back burner from yesterday's stream that I had lined up for the intro, and we're just going to cover it today because they say they're not coming for your kids. They're literally, and I mean literally, not Rachel Maddow literally coming for your kids. And not just that, while simultaneously saying parents have no right to know. We're going to get into it. Tomorrow night, the 2 live streams, and they're going to be monumental. 7 to 8:30, Tarek Johnson, who's the Capital 6 police officer. Let me just double check. I confirmed. Yeah, we're good. Tarek Johnson, he did a Twitter space last week. Just to read his bio, you may have seen a tweet that he put out recently calling out some of the Capitol Police. Former lieutenant with the U.S. Capitol Police, my goals are January 6th justice and to create national unity. Tarek Johnson, whom I follow and follows me. He's coming on at 7 o'clock tomorrow to 8:30. Now, spoiler alert, I've heard what Tarek has to say, and it's not like he's... we're probably going to disagree on a few things. And I fully disclosed my position to him as to what I think January 6th was. And listening to him last week, I think he's more in the center than I might be in terms of like, he might be giving people the benefit of the doubt. He might be saying, you know, the January 6th violence was worse than some people want to admit. So it's not just going to be 2 people who are aligned on fact and interpretation, but it's going to be fantastic. 7 to 8:30. Then 9 to 10:30, give or take, Dave Smith, libertarian stand-up comic, modern-day philosopher, more educated, more informed than 98% of people out there, with Barnes at 9 o'clock Eastern. So it's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern to 8:30, little break, pee break, come back, start a new stream, Dave Smith, 9 o'clock. Now, Viva Fro. Yes, but I didn't wash my hair this morning. I conditioned it, detangled it, and then I put in some argan oil, so it looks especially greasy. All right, good evening. Standard rules. We are simultaneously on YouTube, Rumble, and Locals, vivabarneslaw.locals.com for now. In about 17 minutes at most, we're going to end on YouTube, go over to Rumble. The link is in the pinned comment, where we carry on Rumble and Locals, and then we end on Rumble, and we have the after party on Locals, where I take some questions, answer some tips, and I might have a discussion in Locals that I'm not going to have on the main streams, not for any nefarious reasons. When I publish this to YouTube, it'll have it, but it'll be something special for Locals. Pasha Moyer with a super chat says, Minnie Pearl Harbor. Minnie Pearl was a Grand Ole Opry person for years and years. I didn't know that she had a harbor named after her. Keith Olbermann. YouTube takes 30% of those super chats. In Rumble, they have a thing called Rumble Rants, which Rumble takes 20% of ordinarily, but now they're taking 0 for the rest of the year because they want to promote it and promote the creators. So 100% of it goes to the creator. Let me just bring up the one last shameless self-promotion plug. It's not even self-promotion. It's for everybody. Go to vivafried.com if you want the best merch ever. Wanted for president? Mugshot shot glass, mugshot coffee mug, shirt, above average. I love this. Everyone in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community is above average, so you can get some merch there if you're so inclined. Okay, we're going to cover the Coming for Your Kids story, but we're going to have a theme of gaslighting today. And for those of you who don't know what gaslighting is, it comes from the 1956 movie called Gaslighting, where a husband was psychologically abusing his wife and then telling her that she wasn't actually being abused. And it had to do with the term that I think he was decreasing the lighting in the room, but telling her that she wasn't doing it. And she said, gaslighting. It makes someone think that they're going crazy. Oh, and they're doing it. Boy, howdy, are they doing it? I'm trying to keep an ongoing like diary of this, which is if my Twitter feed is good for nothing else, it's going to be good for that. Here, let's see this. This would be the one definition of gaslighting. Remember back in the early days of the COVID pandemic, I almost want to put that word in scare quotes, but I won't, because there are people hold mutually incompatible conspiracy theories. Like it was a government bioweapon and it also doesn't exist. It was a plandemic, scamdemic, shamdemic, and it didn't exist. Also, it was gain-of-function research in a lab in Wuhan, China, that was deliberately released to reset the world. Two mutually incompatible conspiracy theories. I believe the virus existed. I was diagnosed with COVID at least twice, and my biggest questions those days were, do I jog 5 miles or 3 miles? But you will recall in the beginning, one of the not conspiracy theories was that in order to justify emergency use authorization for an experimental vaccine, quoting the NIH, it was on their website, in order to justify even implementing Operation Warp Speed, although that might be a little bit more complicated in terms of the scope of what OWS was supposed to be. But in order to allow, authorize, implement emergency use authorization, there had to be no alternative existing treatment for the emergency. And some people back in the day were hypothesizing, conspiracy theorizing, which likely turned out to be probably true at the end of the day, that in order to ensure that there were no alternative treatments to the Rona, allegedly, theoretically, they had to block certain treatments and demonize certain treatments, and I won't say criminalize certain treatments, but not far off from that. And one of which was the I word, ivermectin. And back in the day, they said, you remember the FDA saying, you're not a cow, you're not a horse. Seriously, y'all, just stop it. And we covered that lawsuit where they just got spanked by a court, which said, yeah, the FDA can issue information and it can issue, not opinions, but it can issue facts to enlighten, but it can't issue medical advice. And when the FDA said, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, come on, y'all, stop it, referring to what they now recognize as the human version of ivermectin, well, a court said you were ultra-virus, your constituting authority, which is to advise but not provide medical advice, inform but not provide medical advice. They're now pretending that they never did that in the first place. They're now pretending that they never outlawed, prohibited, criminalized, deterred, demonized ivermectin as a treatment. They're now pretending that doctors were always allowed to prescribe off-label use of medications. Some people rightly pointed out whether or not they were always authorized if the pharmacies didn't fulfill those prescriptions. Well, that's kind of a distinction without a difference. But there was testimony last week. And this is what, who is it there? Jared Kelson, Ashley Chong-Honnold, the rep of the FDA. This is what the rep of the FDA said. It's at minute 28 and minute 32, give or take, of the hearing. Listen to this.
Your Honor, FDA has multiple overlapping sources of authority that I'm happy to walk through.
I don't want to judge a voice. That is annoying. That's I may be reading into it That sounds condescending and patronizing. I'm going to repeat what she says because it might be a little low for those who are listening to this on podcast.
Your Honor,
Your Honor.
FDA has multiple overlapping sources of authority that I'm happy to walk through.
FDA has multiple overlapping sources of authority that she's happy to walk through.
That gives FDA authority to convey information.
Convey
to the public.
information.
But here, FDA was not regulating the off-label use of drugs.
Here, the FDA was not regulating the off-label use of drugs because using ivermectin, even if you think and even if you trust the studies that say it's not effective at treating COVID, that would be an off-label use of it. Ivermectin is a dewormer, a parasitic thing that is used in humans and in animals, a miracle drug by all accounts. And the idea that some have is that it prevented replication of the virus. So using it off-label to treat COVID would have been legitimate. Doctors have their medical expertise to provide their own medical opinion on a patient-by-patient basis. Well, now the FDA is saying, we never told people they couldn't do it, even though if there was an off-label use of an existing drug, it would have frustrated or impeded the emergency use authorization that Pfizer, Moderna, and the others handsomely benefited from.
These statements are not regulations.
They're not these statements are not regulations. You're just not a horse. You're not a cow. Y'all just need to stop it. And speaking in the vernacular of what they think everyday Americans can relate to.
No legal consequences.
No legal
They
consequences.
don't prohibit doctors from prescribing ivermectin to treat COVID or for any other purpose. Doctors from consequences. They don't prohibit doctors from prescribing ivermectin to treat COVID or for any other purpose.
They don't prevent doctors from prescribing ivermectin to treat COVID or other stuff. That's what this person from the FDA is now saying, 3 years later.
Quite to the contrary.
Quite to the contrary.
There are 3 instances I'd like to point the court to in the record that show that FDA explicitly recognizes that doctors do have the authority to prescribe ivermectin to treat COVID.
Explicitly, the FDA explicitly acknowledges doctors have the authority to prescribe ivermectin to treat COVID, with or without getting their licenses revoked, with or without having a pharmacy refuse to fulfill that prescription. This is what you call gaslighting. We know what happened. We lived through it. I can no longer trust anything in history that I no longer lived through because even living through it, I am now being gaslit to say, oh, did they really say 2 weeks to flatten the curve? Because if you Google it, it's very hard to find that statement. Did they really not allow ivermectin to be prescribed? Did they? I remember them doing it in real time. I remember the legal basis for which they did it. And now they're telling me they never did it?
On page 974, FDA recommends that consumers talk to their healthcare providers about available COVID treatment options. And they explain that your provider can help you determine the best option for you based on your health history.
Your provider can help you, whatever the hell she just said, find the best prescription for your particular situation. Then what the hell was the FDA coming out for after Joe Rogan took ivermectin and saying, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, come on, y'all, just stop. What the hell were they doing then? Oh, well, forget that. That was just a tweet.
On page 976,
on page 976,
April 2020 FAQ,
frequently asked questions.
FDA advises consumers not to take any medicine to treat or prevent COVID unless it has been prescribed to you by your healthcare provider and acquired from a legitimate source.
Oh, I thought you said it acquired from a legitimate source, prescribed by your doctor. Then what the hell was your tweet about? There's a second part. Listen to this.
FDA is clearly acknowledging that doctors have the authority to prescribe human ivermectin to treat COVID, so they are not interfering with the authority of doctors to prescribe drugs or to practice medicine.
Oh, they are clearly, you're not a horse, tweet FDA. You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Seriously, y'all, stop it. FDA, why you should not use ivermectin to treat or prevent COVID. Oh, I'm sorry. When was this from? Oh, August 21, 2021. Gaslighting. Thoroughly, incorrigibly, and remorse and shamelessly. Oh, no, they never said that. They never got in the way of a doctor. I mean, it's very discouraging. It's very discouraging because if I hadn't lived through this, lived through it, paying more attention to it than I would say 95% of the people out there, even I feel like, oh shit, maybe I misremembered. And then you got people out there who never knew in the first place to even forget or think that they forgot, who are now going to say, yeah, the FDA never did anything, you crazy conspiracy theorist nutcase Viva. Oh, no, they never said anything like that. Okay, here's what we're going to do, because we're going to get into some good stuff now. Copy the link to Rumble, and let's just go. We've given YouTube more time than they deserve. Link to Rumble. Rumble. Here we go. Yeah, you had. I'm not going to read this because I don't want to even be perceived as giving medical advice. But I have spoken with people who couldn't get their existing prescriptions filled for those medications because of the ban that never happened. So it's unbelievable. Hold on. Let me make sure that I'm not going totally crazy in my memory here. Let me just see something here. Did they not destroyed batch? I thought I remembered there was an incident, but it might have been the other one. HCQ, whatever. I thought there was an incident where they actually destroyed an existing stockpile. Chat, you're going to be smarter than me and faster than me. Was there not an example where they actually destroyed existing batches? Pretty sure there was. Okay, so let us go on over to the Rumble side, because 25 minutes, 26 minutes is more than enough. Link to Rumble is there. It's in the pinned comment. If you want to come over to Locals, because we will have a special. We'll have a discussion after everything for our Locals community where everyone is above average. Come on over there. The link is there. But for now, we're going to end on YouTube. So ending on YouTube in 5, 4. There's 505 people should be migrating over to Rumble. Come on, people. It may not be as pretty. It may not be as pretty as some of you might want it to be, but substance over form every day of the week, although the form is still pretty damn good, but the substance is on Rumble. Ending on YouTube right now.